All right. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with the co-host, Dr. Eric Lopkin. We were skipped last week's Carnivore Bites, but that just gives more fuel for what's been going on over the last couple weeks, doesn't it, Dr. Lopkin?
Yeah, it really does. There was a lot going on over the past 2 weeks, especially with the Supreme Courts.
So let's talk about the Supreme Court, because the courts have morphed under, I'm sorry to say, a liberal agenda, just telling you how I think, that they don't interpret the Constitution. They basically legislate from the bench. Do you agree with that, Dr. Lopkin?
Well, to a certain extent, that's the Supreme Court's job, is to, take a look at legislation and go, does this fit the Constitution?
Yeah, but I think recently, though, they haven't really, judicial departments around the country have become politicized, and I think that
lower courts, certainly. The Supreme Court
are out of control.
I mean, the Supreme Court last week basically proved that they are not kowtowing to liberal demands, especially with their ruling on the unions.
Unions, correct. So what does this mean? Okay, you have the left already basically freaking out. Let's just get right down to brass tacks, correct? Is there any argument there, Dr. Lopkin?
No, that's exactly what they're doing.
They're completely losing a grip on reality, which leads me to believe, do these people have jobs? I mean, there's a lot of things I didn't like under Obama, but I had to go to work every day. I mean, did you have the time to protest under Obama?
Given the jobs report that came out, I've got to assume they do have jobs because unemployment is pretty low.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think some of those are the holdouts that maybe don't, or maybe in social activism jobs. But let's talk about that. So the Supreme Court, Trump is going to get this one without any question, correct? There's no question about this, correct?
No, there's no question. He will nominate someone. It will go through.
It will go through, and even you have Manchin and others. Katie Hightower. Maybe it's wrong on the first name, but they're very vulnerable as Democrats. Because flipping gears just for a second, I think there is a Trump wave. I'm dead serious. I think that he has such an energized and loyal base, a lot more than Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Do you agree or not?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, every time the Democrats do something that they think is going to aggravate the Trump base and convince them that Trump is not helping them, all they do is energize them more.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see the whole thing. I do a somewhat of a life. I saw like 15 minutes of the Trump rally last night.
Yep.
I know any way you slice it, I know it's not a scientific poll, I get it, duh. But any way you slice it, my friend, these people are energized. And I also think it even goes deeper. If the Mueller investigation pulls out some crap out of their hat, that's not going to sit well.
No, it won't sit well. But the Mueller investigation has actually done a lot to energize Trump's base. They are convinced that the status quo wants Trump out. They will do anything they can to do it, and they don't care that he was elected by the people.
Well, that's actually true, isn't it?
For the most part, it seems to be.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of I think there is a embedded state. I really do. I'm not talking about black helicopters, but I think there is an embedded state, and I think they freaked out. Because one thing I'm really being amused about, and I would like your opinion on this, Dr. Lopkin, is it seems like Trump's made some mistakes. I think the tariffs probably not a good idea at this particular, as a midterms approach, but that's another issue. I think he's getting it done in spite of Congress, and I think it's freaking him out because these masterminds that have been in charge since post-war America have kind of screwed it up, correct?
He is getting things done. And, you brought up the tariffs. Of course, today more tariffs went into effect both against us and against China. But while it may not be politically expedient to do it this close to the midterms, Angela Merkel has already said, look, maybe we should remove all the tariffs. And she was referring to tariffs against American cars going into Europe that have been in place for years.
If he pulls this off, Dr. Lopkin,
Yes.
What? If he pulls this off, he gets some kind of movement with North Korea. The economy continues to improve or do well. There's nothing more they can improve upon. Tell me about the blue wave.
I think the blue wave is a myth. I think
Go ahead.
I don't think there ever was a blue wave. I think they're going to capitalize on the fact that, again, midterm elections, the party that's out of power generally picks up seats. I think they're going to use that as an idea that, oh, look, we're gaining strength. But it's a myth. There is no blue wave. The Democrats are so disorganized, they just don't have it.
I don't think they have any blue. I'm sorry. I really mean this. I don't think they have any blue wave, any momentum. In fact, if things continue to go without, let's say, a major hiccup, or Mueller doesn't do an October surprise, then I think actually it'll be the reverse. It's not going to be a red wave, but I think they're going to gain some seats in both houses, and I really do believe that.
I don't think there'll be a wave in either direction, although it would not surprise me. I would not put it past Mueller to pull a rabbit out of his hat right before the election.
There's very little doubt in my mind, Dr. Lopkin. So let's real quick as we wrap this up, the Supreme Court, what does it mean to this country? What does it mean to the Trump legacy? And with that also, I always do this, but what's happening? What's the status in your mind of the Obama legacy? So let's talk about the Supreme Court. What does it mean to the country? What does it mean for Trump's legacy?
Well, the Supreme Court is finally giving power back to the people, especially with their decision on unions, where now public unions cannot force people to join. So you're really seeing this switch, a massive 180-degree switch from what was going on during the Obama administration, where the power is flowing back to the people instead of big government.
True. What does it do to Trump's legacy and his momentum? Anything?
I think Trump will gain momentum. I think it's too early to talk about legacy. There's still a lot of time for him to screw things up.
And what about Obama's legacy? I actually know I'm biased, but I see him, as Nixon said, I believe, twisting in the wind. I just don't see I see his relevancy fading hourly.
Yeah, no, Obama is a footnote. He has no real legacy. And quite frankly, his influence in the Democratic Party seems to be virtually nothing because he was pushed out by the Clintons.
No doubt. Well, certainly a lot on the plate this week. We'll rejoin next week. Dr. Lopkin, always a pleasure.
You've been listening to Carnivore Radio's podcast. You can catch us here every week. Carnivore Radio is part of the Xvadio podcast network. You can listen to the podcast at blogtalkradio.com/Xvadio. If you want to be part of the conversation, you can listen to us live every Friday at 4 o'clock on WESU 88.1 Middletown, Connecticut. You can also catch us online at WESUFM.org. We look forward to hearing from you and see you next week.